Welcome to Paper Crafters Library. In this video I'm going to show you how to create this Fall Blessings greeting card. So let's get started. You're going to need to select a background stamp or a fairly heavy stamp in order to create this card. I'm going to be using the leaf print stamp from Paper Tray. So I've chosen two different size leaves, and as you can see that they are fairly heavy for the background. There is a little bit of texture to them, and the smaller one has some veining through it, but it is mainly a background stamp or a solid stamp. You're then going to choose a second stamp that you can kiss the first stamp with. So I've chosen a beautiful font, scripty font from Tim Holtz, and this is in the Reflection stamp set. So you're going to ink up your leaves, and I always start my lightest to darkest, so I'll be using More Mustard, Cherry Cobbler, Pumpkin Pie, and Old Olive inks. So I'm going to ink up one of my large leaves with More Mustard. I'm going to ink up my script using Early Espresso, and these are all classic inks. So I'm just going to ink that up. Once that's inked, I'm just going to touch up my more mustard, and then I'm just going to kiss my stamp onto the script, picking up the script font on my leaf, and then I'm going to stamp it onto a scrap piece of vanilla cardstock. When it's lifted, you can see that I have my outline as well as the script stamped onto the cardstock. So now you're going to clean your stamp in between each of your stamping. I'm going to need a large More Mustard stamp with the kiss, and I'm going to stamp a second one using Cherry Cobbler. So like I said, just make sure you clean your stamp in between. Don't want to ruin any of your ink pads. Once you have a clean ink, you're going to repeat the process using Cherry Cobbler as your base, and again Early Espresso on your script. Kiss the stamp again, stamping that again a second time onto your vanilla cardstock. This one's a little harder to see, but it is there. You can still get the font running through the leaf. Your next one is going to be now stamping with your smaller leaf. You can set aside your large leaf, and you're going to stamp a Pumpkin Pie smaller leaf. As well, you're going to pick up that script. You can clean your stamp, and then you're going to stamp a second one using Old Olive and your Early Espresso for your script. Once you have all four of your leaf images stamped, then you're just going to take your paper snips and cut out each of your leaves, leaving a slight border of vanilla cardstock around each leaf. So just take your paper snips and you're just cutting each leaf, leaving that slight border all the way around. So once you've cut out each of your leaf elements, you're going to set these aside for a moment, and we're now going to start to assemble our card. I've gone ahead and I've cut my card base to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I've scored it down the center at 5 1/2. I'm going to crease along that middle score line with my bone folder, creating a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. You can set this aside for a moment, and you're now going to need a piece of crumb cake cardstock that measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. You're going to need your paper snips, and you're going to distress the edges of the cardstock. So just run the open blade of your scissors along the edges. You can curl up the corners if you wish. Just keep distressing the edges of that, all 4 sides of this cardstock. And you will do the same thing to a piece of Java cardstock that measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So you just want to distress all 4 sides. So once you've distressed all 4 edges of your cardstock pieces, you're going to set aside your Java piece for a moment, and you're now going to need a greeting stamp. I'm going to be using the When I Count My Blessings, I Count You Twice greeting found in Papertrey's Fall Elegance, and I'm going to stamp this in the bottom right hand corner using my Early Espresso Classic ink. Once you have that stamped, you can set aside your stamp as well as your ink, and you're now going to need a Maya mist. And this is a metallic mist. This is the Latte Metallic that I'll be using. So I'm just going to give it a really good shake, mixing up the fluid with the metallic in the bottle. And once it's completely mixed, you're just going to give this a really light spritz, creating a softened background for your cardstock. And because it is a liquid mist, you do want to give it a few minutes to dry because you don't want to smudge any of that on your card. At this time, if you don't have the time to let it dry, you could always give it a blast of heat with your heat tool. So I've allowed my Maya mist some time to dry, and if you notice, I have cleaned up my work area. I'm now going to take my piece of crumb cake cardstock and I'm going to center and stick it to my piece of distressed Java cardstock using my double-sided adhesive. So I'm just going to apply my adhesive onto my cardstock, and I'm just going to center and stick this to my Java piece, leaving equal borders on all 4 sides. Once you have that complete, you're going to take some Stampin' Dimensional, and you're going to bring your card base back in. You're going to flip over your matted cardstock, and you're going to apply a Stampin' Dimensional in each of the 4 corners. Peeling off the backing, you will then center and stick your matted cardstock to your card base, making sure that your fold line is towards the left side and your greeting is in the bottom right hand corner. You want to make sure that you're leaving equal borders on all 4 sides. Now we're ready to bring our cut leaves back in that we had previously prepared. And you're now going to stick your leaves to the front of your card. I'm going to stick them down with Stampin' Dimensional. So I'm applying 2 dimensionals to the back of the larger leaves and 1 to the back of each of the small leaves. And you're just going to start in the bottom left-hand corner, working your way up to the top right-hand corner with your leaves, so they sort of cascade across your card. They can slightly overlap however you wish to put them. At this time, I want to add my last embellishment, which will be a small rhinestone. Stampin' Up! Has these beautiful rhinestones, and if you wish, you could add them the color that they are, but I wanted to tint them to match my card, so I'm going to be using an E79. This is the cashew colored Copic marker. I'm just going to color in 3 of the small rhinestones, and then I'm going to place them under my greeting in the bottom right hand corner. And you just want to make sure that you evenly space your rhinestones. And there you have your finished card. I hope you enjoyed stamping with me.